solve the trig integral on screen. And while you're doing that, I just wanted to say quickly that there are 29 days left in the math countdown series that I'm currently filming. So make sure you stick around until the end of the series. Okay, so there's going to be one particular identity that's going to prove to be useful time and time again when solving this particular integral. And I don't like to remember my identities, so I'm going to derive it from another identity. We know that sine squared of x plus cosine squared of x is equal to 1. And if we divide through by cosine squared of x in this identity, sine squared of x divided by cosine squared of x is equal to tangent squared of x, and cosine squared of x divided by itself is 1, and 1 divided by cosine squared of x is secant squared of x. So that is going to be very useful. All right, so turning back to this integral, we're going to factor out a tan squared of x. So what that leaves us with inside the brackets is 1 minus tangent squared of x. And now we're going to convert these tan squared of x's into secant squared of x minus 1. And you'll see we get secant squared of x minus 1 if we isolate tangent squared of x over here. So we get secant squared of x minus 1 into 1 minus secant squared of x minus 1 dx. You can see that the tangent squared of x became secant squared of x minus 1. Alright, so continuing, just simplifying this right-hand side, this right term over here, we get, so this 1 is going to be subtracted by negative 1. So when we are subtracting a negative, we are adding, so 1 plus 1 is 2, and distribute this negative, we get negative secant squared of x. Alright, so now what we can do is we can expand this. So secant squared of x times by 2 is 2 secant squared of x, and then secant squared of x times by negative secant squared of x is minus secant to the 4th power of x, and minus 1 times by 2 is negative 2, and minus 1 times by secant squared of x is plus secant squared of x. But now we have a secant squared of x here and a secant squared of x here, so I can get rid of this one, and I can make this coefficient a 3, and now I can split this integral up. So I have the integral of 3 secant squared of x minus the integral of secant to the 4th power of x minus the integral of 2. Okay, so what does this leave us with? We know that the derivative of tangent of x is secant squared of x. So conversely, the integral of secant squared of x must equal to tangent squared of x. So this integral solved is simply 3 tangent of x. Okay, and this integral over here, that's very easy. It's just negative 2x. And then we're just left with this, minus the integral of secant to the 4th power of x dx. But that's the same as saying secant squared of x times by secant squared of x. Alright, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to convert one of these secant squared of x back into its tangent form, which is tangent squared of x plus 1. So, of course, we still keep these terms. And I'll convert this one, so we get tangent squared of x plus 1 times by secant squared of x. Okay, now we're going to make a u substitution. So let's let u equal to tangent of x. So therefore our derivative in terms of u, and our derivative of u in terms of x is secant squared of x. So now substituting those back in, we have u squared plus 1 still, and then for secant squared of x dx, we're going to substitute in du. Now we solve this integral. So the integral of u squared is u to the power of 3 over 3, and the integral of 1 is just u, and of course plus c, our constant of integration. Now we substitute back tangent of x for u. So get rid of this u, and alright, tangent of x. And get rid of this u over here, and alright, tangent cubed of x. Okay, so now we have 3 tan of x minus tan of x, which is 2 tan of x, minus 2x, that just comes straight down, minus tangent cubed of x over 3 plus c. And that is the integral solved. So I hope you found this video useful and interesting, and if you did, please don't forget to leave it a like and subscribe to my channel. And if you want to stick around to watch the Maths Countdown series, I'd also recommend you turning on your post notifications. If you do these things, it really does help me out. So I look forward to seeing you in the subsequent days. Thank you.